as a personal brand strategist, so how should they go about it?
If you are a personal branding strategist,
You want to be like, obviously you cannot be.
it's like the coach never plays in the game.
Meet Shreya.
An expert in LinkedIn marketing and personal branding.
She began her journey as a freelancer while still in college.
And has since grown her venture into a multi-six-figure agency.
You started freelancing in your college journey. First you met the LinkedIn founder.
At that time, I was an undergrad student. I had just started my first year.
अच्छा, what was this revenue? किस revenue पे you reached? अच्छा मेरे को ये पहला कोई बंदा hire करना है.
I don't think it was revenue. I think it was just lack of interest in certain things or lack of enough knowledge.
How do you actually train them?
Like, I'm not into training. That's what I have decided. I'm looking for the best of the best. We can, of course, work together. I will give you feedback. My job is not to tell you how to do your job. And don't feel bad about firing someone if they're not doing the job at all.
And how are you managing quality check?
For me, like, everything was reviewed by me before it went out to the clients. Now I don't do that anymore.
So let's suppose you are working with a business owner who has zero online presence. Okay, how would you strategize his LinkedIn profile? Hi Shreya.
Yeah. Hi, Jonty.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
All good. So I've seen a bunch of your podcasts, right? मतलब उसमें आपने काफ़ी बार बताया कि you started freelancing in your college journey. And then you scaled it after a point. But initially when you started, first you met the LinkedIn founder. And that's where you started everything, right? So I've got to know that the first post that you posted regarding the LinkedIn founder, that's where you gained like 4 clients from it, right? Then after that period, what were you posting on LinkedIn? How did everything started after that?
Right. My first post was actually about meeting the CEO of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yes. And I just shared like how that experience was and what we talked about. Once I realized that this is an opportunity where, you know, at that time I was an undergrad student. I had just started my first year.
Yeah.
And I was still getting people to message me saying that, Shreya, we would love for you to write for us. We saw this post. We really like it. And I saw that there was this demand and interest and no focus on, you know, the fact that I was a first year student, that I didn't have a degree, etc. So I realized that I still need to keep writing on LinkedIn. And I honestly didn't know what to keep writing, but I just went ahead with whatever I thought I could share. So I went ahead with, writing tips because I was good at writing.
Tips as in?
Like how to write, how to post on LinkedIn, just very basic things. What makes a good writer, like not in terms of content writing, copywriting, nothing like that, just general, how do you write well. I started writing a lot about my college experiences, the things I was doing, the events I was going to, the people I met, what was that experience like, and just even anything I learned in my class, because I studied English and philosophy. And especially in philosophy, there were a lot of concepts that I found very intriguing from even the business point of view, and I wrote about that. So I think it was just like writing about anything that I could sort of connect to a business sense so that it could suit LinkedIn. But I didn't really have a game plan. I was just good at writing, good at sharing, and people liked that, and that's how it grew.
And that's how you were getting more clients?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So ये आप पूरी writing कर रही थी in terms of your college and all of those experiences. Then till what point that you figured out कि okay, I need to hire someone for this to handle my clients or to write for them?
I think once I started exploring different niches that I didn't have expertise in or I didn't have interest in, or something that I really couldn't learn as soon as I could, you know. So for example, blockchain was one of those niches. So I had a couple of writers for blockchain. I would do the editing, I would do the overview, all of that, but quality control and check in that sense. But all the research, and I knew that they knew what is going on and they know what to write. So that's what I went ahead with. I think I started also outsourcing once I accepted that there's a lot of other people who can do a good job. For the longest time, I thought, no, I'm the best writer and I cannot hire anyone because no one can work like me.
अच्छा, what was this revenue in terms of point of view कि किस revenue पे you reached and then you figured out कि अच्छा मेरे को ये पहला कोई बंदा hire करना है?
I don't think it was revenue. I think it was just lack of interest in certain things or lack of enough knowledge. I'm very good at selling. I'm good at closing clients. I know that people want to work with me. But if I don't have the expertise, and I know that that's not a problem because I know I'll still find the best of the best to provide the best work still. So I had that approach and I hired a few people. So I wasn't like aiming that, okay, this is a revenue goal, because now, like if you look at it before, how much we were doing for, let's say, like $200, $300, we wouldn't do that much now, even for $1,500.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of difference in scope of work in terms of how we charge, what we offer, etc. So it wasn't about revenue. It wasn't even about workload per se. It was more about, okay, if I want more time to do this, if I want more time to keep up with my LinkedIn content, to find clients, close them, etc., then I need to make time. And the only way to make time is not write long form articles, for example. That was not my interest.
Okay.
So I was still doing LinkedIn copy for my clients. I was still doing social media copy, but long form, anything that went into long form, I wasn't doing that. And I was also accepting more than writing. So I was also doing, okay, we can do graphics for you, we can do video editing for you. And I worked with graphic designers, video editors. So I think the goal was to find people who complement my skills and kind of make the most of that association.
And how were you hiring these people?
Usually just on LinkedIn. So I was just posting that I'm looking for someone. And at one point I started using a Google form. That wasn't the best idea because a lot of people applied.
Yeah.
But now we've changed the process. So now it's like you have an application form, but you also have an assignment. So that's how it's changed, yeah.
Once you upload it on LinkedIn कि मेरे को ये वाला particular field में कोई चाहिए, right? So how do you actually interview them, right? And then how do you actually train them after a point?
So I can tell you, because the latest hiring round we did was for video editors. So the first thing I did was I followed the process that works best for me. So I had a very clear job description, a very clean application form with all the details, and we had an assignment. So the assignment was actually to create reels from podcasts, because I want to start doing that. So we were looking for very specific skill sets, which I wrote down. Like, you should be able to watch a long form content and make it into short form. You should know like what parts to pick. So it's not just about, okay, edit it in this style. It's also about having an eye for all these things. What will be important? What will be high value? What can be popular, etc.
Yeah.
Also someone who can keep up with the trends. So this was very clearly in our job, mentioned in our job description, that we're looking for this. We're not looking for someone just who knows how to use like your video editing tools. That's not what we want. The second thing was the assignment. A lot of people didn't do the assignment. So if you don't do the assignment, I think the first 5 or 6 didn't. We had like around 30 applications or so.
Okay.
If I wouldn't have put out the application form, I would have probably had 300, because that's how it works. Then everyone applies. So first, already reduced the barrier, or rather increased the barrier to entry by adding an assignment, then reviewing the assignment. And most people, again, don't keep certain things in mind. So even if for example, one of the things important to me is there should be no grammatical errors. 1 or 2 is fine, like we can correct those things. But if the whole thing has grammatical errors, it's not correctly aligned, etc., then this is too much feedback to give to a video editor who's applying for a specific role, right? So that also became important, that even in our application form we had, are you sure that there are no grammatical errors? Some people said no. So we didn't keep them on the top of our consideration list. We asked how much time did it take. On average, people took around 3 to 4 hours. So if anyone said, I took more than 4 hours to watch the podcast and make 2 reels out of it, one high effort and one low effort or edits, then if you're taking more than 4 hours, then that's also a problem, because this shouldn't take more than 4 hours. So we have a lot of qualifying questions now, which again, I've learned through practice that these are the important questions to ask. And just going by, like, I'm not into training. That's what I have decided, that my agency is not meant to train you. I'm looking for the best of the best. We can, of course, work together. I'll give you feedback, be it writers, be it our graphic designer. I will give you feedback. My job is not to tell you how to do your job. I'm not a recruitment agency. I'm not a trainer. I'm running my business.
But all of this comes with your following at the moment, right? But let's suppose Shreya, first year of college, and she was hiring back then, right? What was that process like?
It was a Google form, that's it. That was just apply, send your samples. 300 people used to
apply. So you struggled to hire people at that moment?
I struggled because I didn't have any barrier in place. Like, anyone was free to apply. They send their samples. Usually what happened is I found like one person. So I would review everything and then I would find just one person. I'm like, okay, let's try. And I found pretty good hires through that also. Pretty long term as well. Like, people who worked with me for 2 years on and off on projects. 2-3 years in fact. But it was a lot of work for me, because 300 applications is too much to go through, and I'm one person. And it's not the best, because again, people will share random things. So if I say, give me your best work sample, I have no context whether you can work for me or not. So that's why we started including the assignment now.
Okay, got it. So you were like really struggling at that point, so just adding an assignment or adding some more qualifying questions helped you, right?
Yes.
In terms of your first hire, what was that, like a copywriter?
Yes, I had a writer for articles, and I think he had reached out to me on LinkedIn DMs. So he
Acha.
sent me a DM, and I'm like, okay, let me try, let me see, and it worked out.
And
fine
still
for that
back
time.
then you didn't used to train people?
I never trained anyone because it was not worth my time. And of course, like I said, I give feedback. I give very clear client briefings. I have calls with them explaining exactly what we need. And even my process with my clients, because that back then I was doing a lot of long form content articles. My process with my clients was very clear. So my writers were never troubled, basically.
Okay.
I was the point of contact. My clients would not bother my team in any way or my writers in any way.
Okay.
If we were doing articles, I had it very clear that, look, this is a topic. These are the 5 main points to cover. I get approval on this brief from the client, and I will create the brief myself, get approval, and then the writer has to write it. So literally the job was to write. So the training was not that important because like 90% of the work as such was done in terms of dealing with the client, getting the brief, etc.
Yeah.
I used to share references. I used to share, like, look at these examples, use these statistics. Here's what we need. So maybe this is some form of training, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm not teaching someone from scratch, and we don't even take interns, for example. So we're not into like teaching,
So
educating.
you take them on contract basis or on full-time basis?
It depends. It changes. Some people are contract, some people are full-time. Depends.
Okay. Hiring a copywriter for me has been like very complicated. Even if I have certain questions for them, right? Also in terms of if I ask them to send their portfolio, I think having a personal brand for all of this does really help, right? Because it caters to the right audience that you want, like you are producing content for, right? And that's how you really get good hires.
Yeah.
And people are looking to get hired, or basically they want to work with you. That's why they do put in a lot of efforts.
I had good hires since before I really had a personal brand, because for 2 years I was only on LinkedIn. And I think there's always so many people who are looking for work, right? So it's not a problem getting talent. Being fast to hire and being fast to fire are both important things.
Yeah.
Especially
do you quickly
when,
fire people?
Yes, now I do. Now I know that I have to give like a certain number of warnings or a certain number of, like, okay, 1 chance, 2 chance, but you can't let that be the norm, because it affects the entire team, especially if you're working with a team. Like now I have a team. So if one person is not getting the job done and someone else relies on them, then it's a queue that's just failing in terms of timeline. Yeah, so now it's like very clear as to, okay, if it doesn't work out for a certain number of times, even after repetitively, giving you feedback and telling you that this is not how it's supposed to be done, then we cannot work with you. And I think most of this happens in terms of punctuality. A lot of people are not punctual.
Yeah.
That's it. So if you're basically not doing the work, then we can't keep you. That's it.
And how are you managing between quality check and managing the client in terms of getting more clients on board?
For me, like, everything was reviewed by me before it went out to the clients. Now I don't do that anymore, because now there's people who can do that and who understand exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
So I don't do that anymore. But basically before, few clients, few things to do, and I used to always review things and put it out. And for me, like I said, I had to post on LinkedIn. That got me leads. I was taking my usual sales calls between my lectures, after my lectures, whatever, during my college days. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Till what time did you figure out ki theek hai, inbound leads won't come that much and I have to outbound?
I started outreach like just this year.
Okay.
So I haven't done outreach for 5 years. The only kind of outreach I've done is if I really like someone's content, I will DM them after a few months. It's very organic. It's not like I'm thinking of outreach. It's like just conversation. And I've ended up working with a lot of people just because of that.
Okay. So you don't attract a lot of masses. You just reach out to that specific person.
Yes, when I was doing, like I said, it's not really outreach. If I saw somebody on Instagram, following them for a while, I see that they're doing really well. I've used their info products, or I've spoken to them, and sometimes it converts into a client. And that's because they also see the value that I bring to the table, and I can see how I can help them. And that's how it works out. I'm not saying that this is the way for everyone. This has just been the way for me. And like I said, we've started cold outreach now.
Okay. So Has there any like a situation in which the client has told you, okay, this is not you, Shreya, this is not written by you, or something like that?
I don't think so. I mean, there were a few
So
questions.
you made sure that the quality check was so proper that it didn't look like that?
See, the thing is, when you think of quality check and when you think of clients, right, it's not that there is only one thing that is correct.
Okay.
Or there's only one format that people will like. They're working with me, maybe they like what I give them, but there's someone else who's doing a different work than mine. They have a different way of writing a LinkedIn post, for example. Doesn't make their work bad.
Yeah.
You know, like there are multiple things which can be acceptable, which can perform well. It's not just one format. So when you realize that, it's not about, okay, the client won't like it just because somebody else wrote it. No, the client can obviously like it because there's no like one thing that's perfect. It's not a mathematical answer, basically, right? I don't recall specifically if anyone said, Shreya, this is not you. But I think after a point, I just started approaching it different when I was pitching myself, and I started saying like, my team will help you. I'm not saying I will do it, I will send this. No, my team will send this to you. My manager will connect with you. My manager will coordinate with you. Like, that's how I speak now.
Okay.
So everyone's aware that this is a team and this is not like me doing the work.
Okay. And in terms of pricing packages, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you have an older client, how do you increase those prices gradually? And how do you introduce a new pricing package to a new client?
So the first thing is, when you're working with a client already, the first thing you want to do is you want to ask them, or you want to kind of
Get their feedback.
not really get their feedback, but you want to get you want to get a hint as to whether they are open to considering a new price. So see, when you have a client already, you've been working with them for, let's say, a year, then it can go two ways, right? First is that you really want to continue working with them. You're doing a good job. You don't mind, you're getting paid like $1,000 per month, let's say. You don't mind that. It's $12,000 a year. You're happy. You know that they will continue working with you, etc. So you don't want to lose them. You're totally fine. You're okay working with like the $1,000 deal for a month. You're completely fine. But you want to still increase the price because you think it's fair to do so. Okay, so that's one thing where you're okay with it, but you would prefer to increase the price. The second is where your client is like expecting too much, or you're really like, you know that you've improved a lot, you're giving much more value than the $1,000, and now you need to increase your price. Like, that is the only way this would work, right? So in the first case, you have, or rather in both cases, you should ask your client like, hi, can we get on a call next week? And I would really like to assess a change in like the fees right now, because we've been working at this fee for a year. So I think this would be a good time to talk about it. Are you open to that? And when you ask someone like, are you open to that, you're getting their feedback and they're not in a shock when they get on a call with you. You're already priming them basically that, okay, this is what the call is about. This is what we want to do. And then you know the scope of negotiation. Basically, obviously, you can't double, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, I think a lot of freelancers get this thing wrong. They think that it's like, let's say you're charging $1,000 per month, right? So they think that if I make it like $1,500, it's fine because maybe it's $500 more and I will give more work. Or let's say even they think, okay, $1,200, for example. I'll make it 12.
Technically, it's 50% more.
Exactly. So it's percentage wise. You don't look at increases by, oh, it's just $100 or $200. No, it's like 10% increase, 20% increase. So you have to keep the percentage in mind, not the amount. And with an existing client, it will always be an increment based on your percentages. It cannot be, okay, I've just changed it to $2,000 now and that's what we're charging. Usually it won't work like that, because for them, then it's 100% increase. It's double. Yeah. But if you have a new client and you're telling them that I charge $2,000 for this, totally fine. Because for them, it's not doubling. It's not like they have any context
it's a new offer
previously.
Altogether.
Yes. So I think these are the things to keep in mind basically when you want to increase the price with the client. Prime them that, okay, this is what we will talk about first of all on the call. And if you're okay with it, then I will pitch you. And whenever you are asking for an increase, you have to be mentally prepared that you may lose the client, right? Okay. Because let's say you are charging $1,000, you end up saying, okay, can we make it $1,200? And the client is like, no, like we cannot do it. I think 1,000 is fine. If you've had a lot of bickering, back and forth, negotiating, it's just like it ruins the relationship. And then if you go back to, yeah, I'm okay with $1,000, then again, like think about what they're thinking. Like, yeah, okay, I could have probably even negotiated lower. Or next time this person wants to negotiate, I will not, because again, I will just say like, this is the only best we can do. So you have to be ready to lose the client. And that's why I said like, unless you are absolutely not okay with it, I wouldn't really recommend going into these waters.
Also,
basically.
what I have experienced in this case is once you negotiate with them, like let's suppose there's a barrier like $1,000
Yeah.
and they don't agree to increase that to, let's suppose, $1,200, right? But then what you'll get to know is that after 2 months of period, they have figured out another agency or another freelancer that can do it lesser than that, right? Even though they don't get the results that you are providing, but still they'll have you for those extra 2 months, but they'll know, okay, this person will renegotiate and have that same conversation again.
Yeah.
So I'll just figure out another person. In the meantime, he'll take care of the rest.
Right. Yeah, that also happens. So like I said, I think this is all about your lead gen, right? That you never slow down on your own lead gen, no matter how busy you are, no matter how booked you are. Always keep that going.
So in what time period do you increase your prices to a older client? How does that, like your agency does that?
It depends really. Like it depends on the offer. It depends on how long somebody works with us. Usually after a year, but the usual LTV for agencies, like for a client, is around 6 to 8 months. So for us, it's around 6 to 9 months for like the majority. And there are a few that will stick for more than a year. So then we consider that.
So what is the first major reason of them leaving? Is that the, like, I don't suppose it would be like कि clients नहीं मिल रहे हैं उनको या results नहीं मिल रहे हैं.
It can definitely be कि results नहीं मिल रहे हैं, because it's not necessary that the same thing will work for everyone, and it's also about their involvement as well, right? So I think for the longest time I used to treat my clients' businesses as mine and try to like control a lot of the elements. But for example, if we bring you the leads from LinkedIn, but you don't have a good sales system, you don't have a good closer, you don't have a good nurturing sequence, you don't have a good follow-up process setup. If you don't have these things, it doesn't matter how many leads we get you. You don't have someone who can do the sale. So if you don't have that person, your revenue is stuck. No matter how many people we bring and book calls with you, right? So the client's involvement and their client's backend systems are so necessary, because we are not doing the sales, we are not doing the closing for you. If I was running like an agency where we are doing like sales and closing, 100%, then that's on us, that you get the leads and we will close them. But right now it's not. So there's a lot of different elements. Maybe priorities change. Some clients, for example, they don't know what they really want. So they thought that they would figure it out along the way. It doesn't happen. So if it doesn't happen, then they're like, okay, let's take a pause. And that's also fine.
Okay. So if that is the case, like let's suppose their closing system is not good. Do you also offer that?
No.
Okay. So you just stick to your basics of what you offer. And if they have the issue in terms of closing and something like that, they can just figure it out.
Yes, I mean, of course, we point out that, look, this is the bottleneck. This is where we are getting stuck. We have leads, but we don't have this in place. We have people who are signing up, but this is not in place. So we review their sales processes as well. Like we review what is your system for sales, what are your landing pages, what's your conversion like there. We look at all of that. And if we see the views are going up, the calls are going up, but the conversion is not there, you're still not getting new clients, figure out, okay, at what point did we lose the client? Okay, then this needs to be fixed. So we do study that. We do tell them that this is the bottleneck, but fixing it is up to them.
Okay, got it. So let's suppose you are working with a business owner who has zero online presence. Okay, how would you strategize his LinkedIn profile?
The first thing is, why do you want to be on LinkedIn? That's it. Like, what is your goal? And if it's because everyone else is doing it, then I wouldn't recommend you start, because that's not a reason to do it. If you want to like promote your new business, or you want a job, you want to get a promotion, like all these different things, then once we have that goal in mind, we start creating content as per that. But for the first month or two, it's more like mass content so that we can get a lot of the audience. And over time, we kind of make it more specific to the goals, because first, of course, we just want to create content and get the audience right there.
Yeah. But the person has never done content, right? How do you extract content from him?
We ask them a lot of questions. So this is our basic thing. Our onboarding call is highly specific. And our goal is to learn about your journey, understand your voice and tone, understand how you speak, things you care about. And the basic idea is that on the call, once you finish this call, then as a client, you will have so many ideas running through your mind. And then you will just drop us a message that these are also the topics I want to talk about. So it's like we are kind of triggering our clients' thought process, and we are telling them through prompts or through questions. We are like kind of bringing their experience, their story, their goals, their mission, all of that out, putting it on like paper or like the virtual paper basically. And that's how we come up with the strategy then.
And in terms of that strategy, how do you make sure that their product or service is selling at the same time?
Like, we can't make sure of that.
But their content revolves around that.
Their content revolves around that. Like, we are not building the product for you. If you have, suppose, a coaching program, we are not the coach. How you deal with that, that's your thing. If I'm writing my ebooks and somebody wants to do personal branding for me, it's not their problem, the quality of my ebooks. That's not their problem. That's my problem. So even if I make a sale but somebody asks for refund, that's not the team's problem, because that's not our job. And that's why I said, like, if I were doing closing, then that's a different thing, because then I'm involved in the direct conversion and the sales process. But when I'm not, then I cannot take that on me, because I don't have control over it.
Got it. But let's suppose he has everything in place, but previously he was getting, like, he used to send a lot of cold outreaches for coaching. Now he wants to have a LinkedIn profile where he can get warm leads. For this type of business owner, you get all the things that he has, like you extract everything on your onboarding call, right? But the content that you put out on LinkedIn, how do you make sure that eventually leads to either profile visit or a link visit or something like that?
So it's a calls to action, basically. What are we directing the reader towards at the end of the post? It could be like download a freebie, maybe. It could be like DM me to book a call. There are so many different ways to do this. Depends on the client, but of course the call to action is important. So what action do you want the reader to take once they've read the whole post? That's what we do as well.
Okay, so you don't guarantee any sort of results or something for the client?
We can't guarantee the closes. We can say that yes, this is like, and we have this as at least a 3-month commitment. LinkedIn is social media, especially if you have zero presence, then this is not a space for guarantees. This is a space for starting with content. That's the main goal.
Okay.
Because when you don't have any presence at all, you don't know what will work, what won't work. If you already have, let's say, 20,000 followers and you have decent engagement, your account is not completely broken down. Some people have like 100,000 followers, still get only 3 likes, right? So that still happens. So unless you are that kind of account, then we know what kind of results we can get you. Then we know that, okay, these are the things we are seeing that we need to fix first, because there's a lot of data already. But if you've never posted on LinkedIn, we actually avoid working with such clients, because the goals are different. Because the goals are different, and the goals can often be a bit confusing as well. The other thing is, social media is a patience thing. So if somebody has never been on social media, then they will really minutely track, Shreya, like today this post did very well, I'm so happy. Tomorrow it'll be like, oh, this post only got like 5 likes. What is this? And then day after, oh, this got like 100 likes, so now I'm happy. So this wave happens when someone doesn't realize how social media actually works. So we're also very keen on working with people who understand that social media is a long-term game, and that you will have these things,
waves,
and it doesn't grow like that. It's all waves, and just because 3 posts don't perform well, it doesn't mean that we don't know what we're doing or that everything's doomed, right?
So what sort of different departments do you have at the moment in your agency?
So we have like a writers team, and social media managers, of course, and graphics and video.
Okay. So these managers that you hire, how do you first hire them? Okay. And also the credibility of them is very important, right? Because they'll be directly communicating with the clients.
Once I onboard someone who's client facing, right? The major thing I do is you have to wait. Like, I'm not going to put them in front of the client instantly, right? So for a month or 2, I will see how they converse in our team meetings, our group meetings, how they share their feedback, how they add value, etc. Once I see that they're ready to be put in front of the client, then I do that. So it takes time.
Okay, so you basically in a way train them, or you just observe them, how they are doing, and accordingly you'll either fire them, right? Or you'll again have the same process in place, and then eventually you will handle the client.
Yes, I don't do just observation, of course. When I say I don't want to train someone, it means I'm not teaching someone how to do their job. I will teach you, of course, how to do it better. I will show you how it should be done, what is my company's standard, how we talk to our clients, how we communicate, what are the things we say, what are the things we don't say. For example, we don't work beyond like 9 p.m. or so. We don't check our messages, and that's totally fine, because I don't expect my team to be available 24/7. That's not right. So all these small things, right? Like, of course, we have our boundaries and our expectations in place. And all these things are trained, like, of course, for improvement, but just not as I'm teaching you what to do kind of thing.
And do you create SOPs before you onboard a client, or do you have a standard SOPs in place?
So SOPs I keep adding as in how I hire new people. And SOPs are also updated because, of course, there's a new problem that comes up every time that you don't even expect, and then the SOP has to be changed and modified as per that. So I personally do an onboarding call whenever we onboard a team member. So I show them around like our dashboards. I show them exactly what they need to do. I show them how they could use AI for their work, timings, how to manage time, how to find posts to engage with, for example, how to communicate with the client. So all these things, yes, of course, they are briefed on that in the onboarding call as well.
And everything is documented in a way that they could refer to?
Yes.
And how do you properly make a SOP so that it is greatly documented also, and at the same time people could refer it and get to that specific point, and you don't have to always intervene?
So right now I'm doing the intervening thing because right now I know that systems are good, but there are a few things that need to still be changed. So the SOPs as such, I have them for particular roles, not for all of them yet.
Okay.
So I would say I'm still learning, and I prefer just getting on a call with someone, explaining them. We are a small team. We don't hire that often, maybe once a month, or maybe we'll have 2-3 hires in bulk together every few months, something like that. And I then prefer to get on a call and ask them if they have any questions, etc. So that's a smoother way to do things for me.
And if that person is really hard to get by, like बहुत मुश्किल से उसको समझ में आ रही है चीज़ें, so do you quickly fire that person? How does that firing process go?
It's like 1 or 2 situations you assess, you see, okay, things are not changing, then we're like, okay, I'm sorry, but we cannot work together anymore. And that's it. And it happens a lot. And I think that's why it's like some people say that you should be slow to hire and fast to fire. I just do the same thing. Like, it has to be fast to hire as well.
Yeah.
And like I said, the application and the assignment format works really well because we get a very small group of people now. It's easier to find good talent. And if we interview one person, it doesn't work out, then we have a wait list basically. So we know the next person who is the next person that we would reach out to.
Right. And as I told you, like, personal branding has really helped that. But what I have seen is your Instagram personal branding is way different.
Yeah.
Your LinkedIn is way different.
Yeah.
So what was the whole strategy behind all of this?
So LinkedIn was very mixed for the longest time, but now I know that that's my lead gen platform. So I stick to lead gen on that. And Instagram is my education. So I teach people freelancing. I teach people how to like work with clients, etc. So that's education.
Why didn't you go on the same route in terms of Instagram?
Lead gen?
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted to do. I really wanted to have a platform where I could teach, where I could be on video. And Instagram is that platform, right?
Yeah.
It's so community-like. You have your Instagram stories, your polls, your Q&A. You have so many things that bring people together that is not an option on LinkedIn or even Twitter, you know?
Right.
So Instagram felt like the right platform, and that's why I went with it.
And at the moment, what sort of outreach system do you have?
Cold emailing.
Okay. And how is that working at the moment?
So we just started. So we will see how things go.
Acha. So what sort of emails are you sending at the moment? Are those like 10,000 a day or something like that?
No, it's not really high volume. I mean, it's not 10,000 a day, and I don't think that's necessary for my agency size as well. Because first thing is, of course, we have to test, because we want to get on calls. We want to see, are they qualified leads? What's the quality of leads that we are getting? How much are we able to close? Because the team has to be ready as well. And if we cannot take more than, let's say, 3 to 4 clients before hiring the next set of people, then that needs to be fixed first rather than just keep going for volume. So yeah, it's not that high.
And which niche are you targeting in terms of cold emails?
So we work with founders and we work with coaches.
So for a specific founders?
Usually SaaS, SaaS tech.
Okay, and coaches?
Coaches, if you have a coaching program, usually it's not like fitness or something. It's usually around business, leadership, marketing, all those kinds of programs.
Got it. So let's talk about your Instagram personal story, right? So it has like started to really boom, right? So what sort of strategies are you using for that?
High value content, I think that's it. I wasn't consistent for the longest time. The last 1 week, I think in 4 days, I went from 107 to 126 now. So 20,000 new people.
Yeah.
And 20,000 new people because they were seeing my videos from podcasts. They saw videos from my meetup where I'm explaining concepts like how to close your clients, how to do follow-ups, etc. So I think it's just high value, and people are suddenly noticing me, and that's because I'm just putting a lot of content out there. So I have my waves of being super consistent and then kind of dying out with it.
Also, I think the strategy behind the podcasting and meetups is positioning you in a way that feels a little superior, to be really honest. And that's why it feels like, okay, this person is actually doing something. And then if I binge watch your content, that is when I realize, okay, this is what she is up to. So it's more about the positioning, I feel, that you have changed, and which has been like transforming the growth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Great, man. Do you have any last sayings from this?
Not really. I don't know. I think we talked a lot about agency and hiring, so that's good. One more thing I would add in the hiring process, like if somebody is new to hiring, basically, I would say that consider people on like one-off projects. So you're not really taking anyone full-time. You're not really thinking, okay, how do I pay them salary, etc. You just take someone part-time or for project basis, and even have this sort of probation period, you could say.
Yeah.
So work with them for 2 to 4 weeks, see how that goes, and then decide if you want to continue with them further. This is the best way to do this. Like all for our best hires, we actually did this. Unknowingly, I did this. It was very like unplanned that way. But those are the people who are still working with me now after like 1-2 years.
Okay.
So I think having a probation period is really good. And don't feel bad about firing someone if they're not doing the job at all. Like first, of course, you should be a good, like what you say, leader. And of course, you should lead them. You should tell them how you can help them. You should ask them, what are the challenges you're facing? This is such an important question to ask your team regularly. So what are the challenges you're facing? And I can help you overcome that.
Yeah.
And when you do this, then you will see that everything's going smoother. But still, if it's still not working, people are not working, don't feel bad about firing them. You've given them warnings. You've told them like, we cannot work beyond this point. And then that's fine.
Okay, one more question. Like if someone has to start as a personal brand strategist, right? Then they'll be talking about personal branding. But actually they don't have a personal brand. So how should they go about it?
If you are a personal branding strategist,
You want to be like, obviously you cannot be.
right. See, it doesn't really matter if you do certain things for yourself. Like it really doesn't. Because it's like the coach never plays in the game. It's something like that. So maybe you have experience doing this for someone else. You're very good at strategy. Maybe you shared some ideas with your friends and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Maybe you worked with someone in your office, in your workplace. Maybe you did an internship. Maybe you did that for another company, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So you can still talk about personal branding. Just because you don't have it, it's not a problem. You're building it.
Yeah.
And I would say the strategy that you use to build your personal brand, of course, to get personal branding clients, that's a strategy in itself, right? So it's you going a bit meta on this basically by doing so, but you don't have to have like a lot of followers to be able to do this. I was getting my first few clients when I had just made one post on LinkedIn, and I had like not even 1,000 followers, I think, back then. So people don't really care about following count, or I didn't have a personal brand then. Personal brand is built. It's built over time. It's not even built by following. Because right now, if you see so many people get to 1 million followers just like that, but they have not been in this space long enough to be considered an expert or to be considered a go-to person or to be remembered. So hitting 1 million or hitting any number is not a mark of how good you are at something. And I think this would be the approach to take. And you can
But as a strategist, what I feel is just talk about personal branding in general. Like let's suppose a topic like how Alex Harmozy grew his following through his personal brand strategies. Talk about those strategies, right? Don't talk about like how you would approach things. Talk about how they have approached things, right? That would also position you in a way of like, okay, this person knows the shit, right? And that's how you could like gradually grow from there.
Yeah, breakdowns are definitely like one of the most important case study formats I recommend everyone to do.
Yeah.
So you should see whoever, like even if you're developing websites, for example, then you should go and check certain websites and you should share a breakdown of what you would have done differently, what you would have done to improve. So what is it that this person is already doing right or this company is doing right versus the changes you would make.
Yeah.
So that's also a good approach, yeah.
Great. I think there would be a lot of value from this. And I'm so happy to do this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.